So I'll be speaking on trabeculectomy. So as no trabeculectomy still remains the gold standard filtration surgery despite so many new surgeries. It's a partial thickness filtration procedure, and there are several aspects of filtration surgery that determine the success or failure of procedure. So the long term of success of surgery depends on the preoperative factors, surgical technique, and various intra and post-operative measures. Preoperative workup is very, very important. Careful choice of surgical site is important, especially in patients who have undergone previous surgeries. Judicious use of antimetabolites. Actually, this is obstructing my view. Can you remove this toolbar from down, because I'm not able to see? Hello?
मैम क्लिक ऑन पावर पॉइंट मैम, प्लीज गो ऑन देयर।
मैम दैट इज फ्रॉम जूम, तो नहीं हो पाएगा, नहीं तो वापस आपका वो फुल स्क्रीन पे नहीं आएगा।
मैम माउस से कंट्रोल कर लीजिए।
Yeah?
मैम आप माउस से कंट्रोल कर लीजिए पावर पॉइंट को। हाँ, अब क्लिक कीजिए मैम, माउस से टच पैड पे टच कीजिए मैम।
हाइड थंबनेल करो।
What?
हाइड थंबनेल।
मैम क्लिक से कर लीजिए, कहा नहीं हो रहा तो क्लिक से, या एरो यूज कर लीजिए मैम, एरो।
No, but I have to. Okay. Yeah.
Is it better now, ma'am?
Okay, so yes. So pre-operative workup is very, very important, and pre-operative counseling of the patient is important. It's important to explain the patient the nature of surgery and what to expect, and also about tell the patient about the complications, especially in patients, since we are doing very advanced, we are doing surgery in very advanced stage, so it is important to even tell them about the wipeout phenomena. In trabeculectomy or any glaucoma surgery, it's important to stop aspirin and related anticoagulants so as to minimize bleeding during surgery, which can lead to scarring, and medications that increase the possibility of inflammation and filtration failure, such as PG analogs and pilocarpine, should be discontinued. And one may choose to start preoperative steroids or NSAIDs for very inflamed eyes, so as to prime the conjunctiva and make it less inflamed. As far as possible, reduce the pressure using intravenous mannitol if not contraindicated. The pressure should be normal before surgery so as to avoid complications of sudden hypotony. Also identify risk factors and plan and modify your technique accordingly. As I have already said, if there's excessive inflammation or if there is history of previous glaucoma surgery or conjunctival scarring, then modify your technique. A large anti-fibrotic treatment area is desirable to achieve diffuse non-cystic blephs with a lower risk of discomfort and leakage. And now with the modified Moorfield techniques, which most of us have adopted, with change in the area of anti-metabolite treatment, conjunctival and scleral flap construction, and use of releasable sutures have dramatically reduced the complications. You can use local anesthesia, however, inject minimal amount of anesthesia and try not to put pinky ball or excessive pressure onto the eye. Gentle massage is indicated. One can even do surgery under topical anesthesia or subtenous anesthesia. So I am basically going to discuss about the technique, and I prefer to use corneal traction sutures because it provides better exposure and there's no chance of creating a superior rectus hematoma which can trigger wound healing. However, there's a learning curve to it. So here the corneal traction suture is taken with 60 Vicryl suture, and the depth is important. You should not perforate the cornea, and it should be at the right depth. The conjunctival flap is very important. Fornix based is preferred by most of us as it allows wider application of mitomycin C and more diffuse bleb rather than this cystic bleb. Handle the conjunctiva very gently with non-tooth forceps, especially if it is thin and inflamed, as you can cause buttonhole. And blunt dissection is preferred. You can give these radial cuts to improve the exposure. So after this, gentle cautery. Don't do excessive cautery, otherwise it can shrink the sclera. Mitomycin application can be done in the form of injection or sponges soaked in 0.2 to 0.4 milligram per ml, and apply them over a wide area and count them and remove them, and then thorough wash is indicated. Scleral flap can be of any shape or size. However, it should be of uniform thickness, almost half scleral thickness, and it should be dissected tangential to the limbus in a uniform thickness. And as you approach limbus, stop short 1 to 2 millimeter behind the limbus on either side so as to facilitate posterior flow of aqueous. However, in the center, you have to dissect clear cornea. So I do it with this crescent, and so that, because you have to remove the block anterior to the scleral spur, including the corneal tissue also. And I do paracentesis with 30 gauge needle, and this pre-placed suture I always apply. Sclerostomy can be done with Vannas or Kelly sponge. Size should be that it is covered on either side with at least 1 to 2 millimeter scleral flap so that it can be nicely covered. And here I am removing it with Vannas. Iridectomy should be bigger, slightly bigger than the size of the sclerostomy so that it doesn't block. And then pre-placed suture is immediately tied. And now in most of my surgeries, I apply one suture fixed and one releasable. So releasable suture, this Kolker's technique from cornea to the scleral flap, and then from scleral flap to sclera, and then with 4th row knot, it is tied. So it is so that you can just pull it post-operatively from the cornea. So since you have not dissected till clear cornea, the posterior flow is facilitated and there's hardly any leak from the side. So you don't require to now give sutures on the sides, and on pressure there's enough flow. Conjunctiva, I started using purse string suture, and from cornea to the conjunctiva, and then then you just apply the suture like a purse string at the edges of the conjunctiva. And then pull it onto the cornea and tie it. So in this way, you're just burying the knot inside this crowded conjunctiva, and this knot is not going to be exposed in the post-operative period. It doesn't cause any irritation or inflammation. And on the other side, in a similar way. And then in the center, I apply 1 or 2 mattress suture from cornea to conjunctiva and then back into the cornea to facilitate the flow of aqueous. Sorry to make it watertight. So at the end of the surgery, you can see that the bleb is nicely formed, and you can inject some fluid and check the filtration. It is elevating, and the pressure is normal. It should not be too high or too low. It is normal, and the AC is well formed, and the bleb is well formed. So you can also use this Kelly sponge, which I routinely use in case of combined surgery. The rest of the procedure is similar. So post-operatively, as we all give post-operative steroids to reduce inflammation and cycloplegic, and we do bleb massage, digital massage. I think it's a routine practice to elevate the bleb post-operatively. You can release the sutures or do laser suture lysis. It is very simple. Under the slit lamp, you can just pull it with a 26 gauge needle and pull it on either side if you have put 2 sutures. And you can consider using 5.
Dr. Sunita, can you just sum it up?
Yes. So this is the last this thing. In some percentage of cases, you need to do needling. So I do it with 0.1 ml of 0.1 milligram mitomycin C. So repeated to and fro movements and side to side movements. You can just lyse the fibrotic tissue, and you can see the form of bleb at the end of. So this is pre and this is post. So a careful preoperative evaluation, meticulous surgical technique, frequent and careful postoperative management, and early detection and aggressive treatment of complications leads to a successful